Hi, Merin. Hi, Adish. You can request to unmute if you'd like. Sai can be back in a minute to start.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Fundamental Quiz or the Mental Health Quiz in association with OFC and India Wants to Know. My name is Sai Ganesh and I'll be hosting the quiz along with Megha and Aarti. Say hello to both of them.
Hi.
All right, before we just start off with the rules, if all of you can just introduce yourselves on chat with your name and which city you're dialing in from, that would be helpful for us to begin. I'm Sai, by the way. I'm currently dialing in from Coorg, which is why my network might be a little patchy. Aarti, Megha, do you want to tell us where you're dialing in from?
Hi everyone, I'm Aarti. I'm currently in Navi Mumbai.
Hi, I'm Megha. I'm calling from Bangalore.
And along with us, we have a few people from the India Wants to Know team, Aman and Vedang. Vedang will be co-hosting the quiz with me, so please send in your answers to Vedang Thakur. Vedang, if you can just say hi so that we know which of the two handles you're calling in from.
Okay. Hello. Yeah, I'm from this handle.
Can you just change it to QM Vedang so it'll be easier
Yeah.
for everyone to recognize? Okay, thank you. We have Madhumita from Chennai, Adish from Delhi, Rashmi from Delhi, Lalita from Coimbatore, Mehak from Delhi, Merin from Navi Mumbai. Merin is a regular at India Wants to Know quizzes and the erstwhile Clubhouse quiz as well. So, hey, Merin. All right, we'll start off with the quiz. It's a fairly simple and fun quiz while talking about relevant topics from the world of mental health. Here are the rules for today's quiz. Fairly simple. I'm going to ask a question. You need to send in your answers on chat to QM Vedang. So you'll see his name appearing there. So along with Aarti, Aman, Megha, and myself, you'll see the name QM Vedang. Please send in your answers only to him and not on public chat. Right now, you all have the opportunity to send in public chats, but when you send in the guesses, send it only to just change the sender to QM Vedang, unless you want to help others and with the right answers. After that, after the first 30 seconds, you can just raise hand on Zoom chat. So on the Zoom app, you have the opportunity to raise hand. If all of you can just raise your hand once so that we know it's working for all of you. Yes, Chandni has done it and Mehak and everyone, right? So just raise your hand on Zoom and we will come to you. We'll pick people randomly. And then after that, you can unmute yourself and speak out the answer directly to the panelists. And after that, we have a short 1 to 2 minute segment where we discuss fun facts related to the question. So all of you are free enough to share interesting anecdotes, facts that you know, or trivia or stories regarding the subject. Fairly straightforward. We have approximately 12 questions that we hope to run through in the next 1 hour in 3 different rounds. All the best to you. Try to have fun. If you don't know the answer, try to work it out. If you're not, just have fun and maybe give us some funny answers or things that you think would be witty or funny. Right. So Vedang has mentioned this. Click on hosts and panelists on the left-hand side and not attendees. All of you are attendees and some of us are panelists. So you send in the answers only to QM Vedang. Madhumita, I hope I've answered your question. Right. Okay. All the best. Here we go. Please use the chat button. Do not use Q&A. You will see his name in the host section, Rashmi. And ask me, let me just do one thing. I'm going to unmute Ask Me and check if you can. Hey, Asmi, can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Can you see Vedang's name, QM Vedang, in the panelist section?
No, I can't.
Okay. Can you just tell us, when you click on participants, what do you see?
When I click on participants, actually I have no participants option over here. It's just chat, raise hand, and Q&A.
Chat. Okay, when you click on chat,
Yeah, when I click on chat, there is everyone and there is hosts and panelists.
so click on host and panelists, please.
Okay.
Okay, then do one thing. Just send in your answers to host and panelists. All of us can see your answers, including Vedang.
Okay.
Right. So for just then I'll make a correction. Some of you may not have that feature in your Zoom. So just send in the answers on chat to hosts and panelists. All of us can see it. So that shouldn't be a problem. So Vedang will keep score anyway. Yes, Marin, this is the webinar format that we're trying so that your chats are private and not public to everyone. Awesome. Is everyone set? If not, just let us know in chat. We'll again clarify. Send in your answers to hosts and panelists. Vedang will get the answers anyway. Okay, great. Looks like everyone sorted it out. We always welcome this, like Dr. Naveen Jayakumar said once in our quiz, that there are no such thing as wrong answers. There are only alternate facts. It's a slightly dangerous thing to say, but in a quiz, what we mean is that we accept funny answers, witty answers, right? So just try to have fun as much as possible. And the questions also framed in such a way that sometimes you may be misled, hint, hint, right? So once again, don't use a Q&A chat unless you're just saying good things about India Wants to Know, right? Here we go. This is the first question of today's quiz. Once again, a big shout out to Megha and Aarti for letting us do this. It's a quiz that we've been working on for a while, and we've been spending a lot of time on the research and the content. Hope you like it. Here's the first question. Send in your answers to hosts and panelists. Okay, this is a scene from the very popular Malayalam movie called Kumbalangi Nights. Now, in this scene that you see depicted here, where this gentleman on the left is looking out of the window and tells his brother something, this is probably the first time in mainstream Indian cinema that something has happened with a lead male character, right? Just tell us in a few words, what do you think happened probably for the first time in mainstream Indian cinema? This has now become also a meme in Kerala. That's why this image might be familiar to many of you. But this scene in the movie is probably the first time something has happened. Send in your answers to hosts and panelists. Merin Reggie has sent in her answers so far. Those of you who are watching it on YouTube, can also share your answers on chat, and I'll probably share them out on the live stream. Any other guesses? Am I not audible?
Audible to me, sir?
You are to
Ramaswamy?
us.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
audible.
thank you.
You're audible.
Thank you. Right. Just tell us, what do you think happened for the first time in mainstream Indian cinema because of this, or after this, rather? Okay, let's go to the pounds section. Let's pick someone out randomly. Go ahead, Mehak. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, but I would like to not unmute myself. My dogs are barking in the background, and unless someone's very interested in hearing 3 dogs bark.
We all would love to
We
hear
would love to
dogs
hear
barking
that.
background. Please go ahead, along with your family.
Right. Sorry, could you please repeat yourself? I couldn't hear you because of the same thing. Yeah.
Sure. This is the first time probably in mainstream Indian cinema where something has happened with the lead male character in this movie, Kumbalangi Nights. What do you think happens for the first time?
In all honesty.
Or what is this character doing?
Sorry, what is this character doing? In all honesty, I'm not familiar with this movie, so it's a guess in the air.
Yes, please. That's what we like.
But my guess would be either a character, male character rather, goes to therapy for the first time, or something along the lines of good parenting, considering a young child in there.
Aarti, Megha, what do you think? The answer?
I'm so impressed by this guess just by looking at
Yes.
that.
Yes, using the
That's
fact that
absolutely
it's a
right, Mehak.
mental health quiz, I think Mehak, excellent guessing. You're a quizzer for sure.
Not having watched the movie as well, congratulations, Mehak, on that absolutely right answer. This is probably the first time that we are aware of in mainstream Indian cinema where a character actually asks to go to to a therapy and accepts that he may be mentally unwell, and it doesn't have any sort of a plot hook to it. It doesn't sort of lead to other incidents and so on. It's just a very normal thing that happens in the movie. Any other interesting guesses or facts about this movie, please share in on chat. Aarti, Megha, have you seen Kumalangi Nights? Any opinions about it?
Just that it's great.
Yeah.
Like genuinely a stunning film. I got told for so many years, watch it. And I was like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? And then I watched. That's the big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thoroughly loved it. I want to watch it again. And I also remember, obviously, I don't remember all details, but it touched upon a lot of aspects of toxic masculinity in society, right?
Yes.
It really questioned these ideas that we've come to accept as what men should do and shouldn't do. And
Yes.
this part, especially, I think was very important, especially in this context. So, yes, Madhu, we can watch. Go for it.
And like Aarti said,
Yeah.
I think it's nice when that's expressed through multiple characters. And
True.
not just through like, hey, one protagonist, this is all his struggles, this is all the toxic
Yes.
stuff, this is all the learning arc. But I think this was like a really good use of multiple characters.
I think the place where it's set is also known for some ecotourism or something quite unique. I don't remember that, Funda. Do you all?
Even I'm not sure about that piece, but definitely I think in the story, the idea of the different brothers, not related by blood necessarily, but all of them have different shades of the toxic masculinity, right? And then this young kid who's looking at it from the sidelines. And we were just talking about this movie recently about how one of the great things about this film is that every time you watch it, you'll find small little nuances. For example, one of the characters in the movie actually sort of shows his toxic masculine side when he's talking to the woman he's in love with, and the movie playing in the background is Kabir Singh, right? And sort of small little details of nuance there. Every time you watch the movie, you'll find out sort of something interesting. Here's a snippet from the film.
എൻ്റെ പണി വേളിയിരിക്കുന്ന ശരിക്കും കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് വരിക്കുന്ന എന്നെ ഹോസ്പിറ്റലിൽ കൊണ്ടുപോടാ കരയാനൊന്നും പറ്റില്ല സങ്കടം വരുന്നുണ്ടോ ഇമോഷണൽ ആവുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഇമോഷണൽ ആയിക്കോ കരയണമെങ്കിൽ കരയാ സഹായിക്കാനല്ലേ ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ ഉള്ളത് അമ്മ പോയപ്പോൾ ബോണിൻ്റെയും അമ്മനെയും ബോണിനെയും ഒഴിവാക്കി പോയപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ അപ്പനാണ് വീട്ടിലോട്ടുണ്ടെന്ന് പിന്നെ
For the sake of many people who haven't watched the movie yet, I'm not going to play a lot more, but do watch it. Like we said, it's one of those greatest films that have come out of the last decade or so. Megha is translated right, absolutely right. He says, the psychiatrist, the therapist actually says, if you want to cry, cry, I'm here to help, right? Just a second. Yeah. Moving on to the next question. Another popular film from recent times that spoke about therapy in a mainstream context, right, is the Shah Rukh Khan Alia Bhatt film called Dear Zindagi, right? So I'm going to play a scene from this movie, a very famous scene where Shah Rukh Khan's character explains something called the chair theory, right? Now, what is the actual scientific term for what he's explaining in the scene, right? Take a look at the scene.
Raghavendra is tall and handsome.
So तुम्हें tall लोग पसंद है, short and strange.
Sid was also tall.
तो एक Sid भी है.
हाँ, तो? You're trying to say that there are lots of men, right? That's what you're trying to say. Just say it. सारी दुनिया तो ऐसे ही सोचती है ना? No, come on, seriously. अगर किसी लड़की का एक से भी ज़्यादा relationship हो, then खत्म. You're labeled as
क्या तुमने कभी कुर्सी खरीदी?
हाँ.
और क्या तुमने दुकान में जाते ही पहली कुर्सी पसंद कर ली और खरीद ली?
नहीं.
Exactly my point. Some kursis are comfortable but look like shit. Others look nice but are hard on the bum. So the process starts. Kursi after kursi after kursi after kursi. How many kursis before we find that one kursi? एक कुर्सी चूज करने से पहले अगर हम इतनी सारी कुर्सियां देखते हैं तो एक लाइफ पार्टनर चूज करने से पहले हमें ऑप्शंस नहीं देखने चाहिए।
All right, send in your answers. If everyone else could hear me, this is a famous scene from Dear Zindagi where Shah Rukh's character talks about the fact that on an average, every human being makes about 150 relationships in their life. This is actually a sort of a dumbed down version of a fairly modern, commonly known scientific concept. What is that number called? So your answer would be X number. All right, you can just raise your hand, we'll come to you. Let's go randomly to a participant here. Madhumita, if you can just tell us, unmute yourself and tell us the answer, please. Okay, let's go to Sham if Madhumita's unable. Yeah, hey Madhumita.
Hi, yes, sorry, I wasn't able
Yes.
to unmute. I think this is the Dunbar's number.
That's absolutely right. And can you tell us a little bit about the Dunbar number?
So yeah, basically it's what's written in the comments that we can maintain, like it's humanly possible to maintain only about 150 stable human connections in one's life. And yeah.
That's absolutely right. And this gentleman's name was Dunbar. After he basically came up with this concept. And what I found interesting was that he actually did not study humans. He actually studied primates, and he applied those observations to human beings based on historical evidence and so on. Right? And he said that on an average, to be fair, human beings can make and sustain only 150 relationships. After that, it sort of breaks down, or after, before that, it is just sort of underutilizing our social skills. Yeah. Thanks and congratulations to Madhumita who answered that on chat.
So
Does anyone else? Yes, please.
There was a recent, over the years, there's been a lot of talk of Dunbar's number, especially when it comes to social media.
Yes.
So you may have like 1,000 friends on Facebook, but like at the end of the day, they're only going to be about 150 people that you actually really genuinely can be in touch with.
Yes. That's another interesting insight that, Dunbar number was created much before the advent of social media. So there's a lot of speculation whether this number holds true in this sort of a new hyper-connected world that we have. Does anyone have any interesting points to note about Dear Zindagi? Notwithstanding Shah Rukh Khan being the trending topic. Okay.
Yeah, not so much about Dear Zindagi. I think one of the things it did, for better or for worse, is make it more accessible, more normalized to even seek therapy. So I know a lot of people actually were inspired because of it. Although it's not like completely problem-free. I think it shows some elements of, the relationship between the therapist and the client, this idea of transference, if anyone's familiar with that, where you basically transfer feelings to your therapist that may or may not be appropriate, and so on. So that was about Dear Zindagi. I was also struck when you said that Dunbar research was based on primate research, and in the history of psychology is full of such studies actually. So attachment styles, for instance, if you're familiar, was done on monkeys. So there's a lot of our intro to psychology textbooks would have these pictures of monkeys, like one monkey which was with a wire frame fake mother, and it didn't develop attachment. And then there was this other monkey that was swaddled with, the fake mother was swaddled with cloth and made it soft and so on. So it's really interesting to see the history of what we now apply to human beings often comes from research on animals. Also dogs, pigeons, classically, like the conditioning research was done with a lot of animals. So yeah.
Which makes it all the more pertinent that it was done pre-social media, right? Because the ways in which we assess things based on primate research when they don't have access to social media, and the ways that our minds get and lives get affected by it, I don't know how convinced I am that that kind of theory would still stand.
Yeah, well, to be honest, 150 people still seems like a lot in my life.
Yeah, I was going to far.
Not sure if that'll apply, but Madhumita, thanks for saying that. That's been on my list, The Midnight Library, so I might want to pick it up.
I just read it last week. It's the first book I've read since April, and it was very, very worthwhile.
Awesome.
So Matt Haig has a habit of maybe over-explaining a little bit. So there's not a lot of, left to the imagination, but very nice Funda and very good.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you for the recommendations. Yes. Even the Humans by the same author is nice, says Mehak. That's why we come here. We come here for recommendations. The quiz is just on the side. One interesting fact that someone just shared just before regarding the earlier question is that the Kerala government actually used the character of Shaji from Kumbalangi Nights in their advertising for the mental health helpline. Right. So if you're feeling depressed, call. I think the exact lines were, "Don't hesitate to call, Saji." Right. So they refer to everyone else who's suffering from mental health or depression as Saji from the character from Kumbalangi Nights. All right. We'll move on to the third question of today's quiz. This is a fairly popular HBO series called In Treatment, right, where the lead character, played by Gabriel Byrne, the famous Hollywood actor, goes to therapy. On the right, you see Irfan Khan, who acted in an episode of the show. What is the profession of Gabriel Byrne, who goes into therapy? All you have to do is just take a guess. What do you think his profession is? You can send in your answers on chat to hosts and panelists. And we'll close pounds in another 5 seconds, after which we'll go to those who are just raising their hands. Right. Who would want to take a shot at this guess? Just raise your hand on Zoom and we'll unmute you. Let's go to Adish, who hasn't spoken so far. Hi, Adish.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Sorry, just before you start.
I'm from Delhi.
Hi. Go ahead, please.
So going by like the pattern that a lot of quiz questions follow, I'll take a guess that that the character himself is also like a therapist or a psychologist. So he also needs mental help.
That's absolutely right. In fact, a lot of you in chat also said the same thing. A psychologist seeing a psychologist, a therapist seeing a therapist. Sham said something interesting. He said that he's an IT geek seeking therapy. That may be also true and fairly common thing today, but no, the answer is absolutely right. The show actually, we deliberately sort of had a mischievous angle to this question. Just to throw you off guard, we showed you Irfan Khan. Actually, Irfan Khan is guest starring in a few episodes in the third season of the show. And on all the episodes, Gabriel Byrne's character essentially talks to his patients and also goes to his own therapist, right? And he talks about his own issues that he's dealing with patients, his relationships with his patients, and so on. Aarti, Megha, or anyone else who's watched this show, any comments? No?
Not so. So I've watched some episodes many years ago, but in general, yeah, this idea of therapists seeking therapy is quite an important part actually of their training and their professional ethics in a way. So this idea of supervision is quite integral. And Megha will tell you a little bit about our project later on, but part
Yes.
of our process when the One Future Collective mental health support project was kicking off was to ask if the mental health professionals in our database were also seeking support from other mental health professionals. So I think this is quite important, obviously, because the kind of burden and the kind of effort that goes into being a therapist definitely takes a toll on our own mental health. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add. Not so much about the show though.
Any interesting fun facts regarding that, like in terms of professional ethics that you spoke about, anything that we can share?
Oh, if we had a quiz about all the problematic movies and shows, I think there's a lot of examples of where therapists break these rules and really do a terrible job. I forget the name of one, but yeah, it was just like full of things that you shouldn't do as a therapist.
Interesting.
Fun facts. Let's see if someone else has any.
Sure. This show, I believe, is also a remake of an Israeli show. So it's not an original HBO series, and they've taken it to, I think, 3 seasons so far. All right, let's move to the next question. This is an interesting Insta reel that went viral some time ago, talking about the same idea of therapists going into therapy. Not sure how many of you are familiar with it, Gen Z folks. Let's see.
Your therapist probably has a therapist. Sorry, they what? And your therapist's therapist probably also has a therapist. That's a lot of therapy. It is, but it should be encouraging. Why? How exactly are they supposed to help me if they're just as screwed up as I am? Maybe so, but the difference is they're actually letting their therapist be a therapist. So my therapist is better at getting therapy than I am? Your therapist knows firsthand how hard it is to do the job of a therapist when your clients are not being honest with you. So they're probably honest with their therapist and therefore getting effective therapy and therefore doing mentally better. So they're probably in a place where they can actually help you. This is the part where you make a point, isn't it? If you start being honest with your therapist and allow them to actually do their job, then maybe you'll get into a good place too. So honestly, you should be grateful that.
Hope you all enjoyed that bit. Okay, one interesting fact about the show that we spoke about in treatment, the episodes that featured Irfan Khan are actually written by Jhumpa Lahiri. So she was actually invited to guest write for those specific episodes because his character, I think, had some origins from Bangladesh as well. And he was also someone who loved cricket in his free time. So there was a lot of sort of in-depth research around this bit.
I think Jhumpa Lahiri is like the...
Your therapist probably...
Yes,
like the queen of Bengalis in America kinds of stories, right?
And has also written for Irfan so many times.
That's true also, yeah. The namesake, yeah. Great point.
Interesting connection there. Thanks, Megha, for that fun fact there. Let's move on to the next question. Once again, for those of you who just entered, send in your answers to QM Vedang or to host and panelists. Either of the 2 options should work. All right, I'm going to show you a short clip from this World War II Disney film called Reason and Emotion. This inspired a popular film of our times. Take a look at what happens in the scene, and that should help you work it out. The other multiple clues as well.
Losing. He said so. Don't be stampeded by hearsay. I'll believe anything.
I hope the audio is audible.
That's right, Emotion. Go ahead. Put reason out of the way. That's great. Fine. For Hitler, that master rabble-rouser destroys reason by preying upon the weakness of emotion with fear, sympathy, pride, and hate, just as he did in the minds of the German people. Behold, the Nazi Superman. Let's see how Hitler controlled him through fear. Fear of the concentration camp. Fear of the Gestapo. Oh, I'm scared. Don't listen to that madman.
Was wollen Sie haben für den Führer?
Now, through sympathy, by crying, I only want losing. He said so. Don't be...
So the question is, which popular movie of our times is inspired from this film?
stampeded by hearsay.
I'll believe anything I want. And hate told him through Apple.
Was wollen Sie haben für den Führer?
Now through sympathy. By crying, I only want peace, but they forced me into war.
Don't cry. He is a big liar.
Don't call my Führer a liar. The whole world is against our peace-loving Führer. Germany. Aber alles.
Now it's pride. Pride in phony racial theories about Aryan superiority.
It's all childish nonsense.
Shut up.
All right. Seems to be fairly simple and straightforward, but I really like the clip a lot. Fairly symbolic of even modern times in many ways. Does anyone want to raise their hand and take a shot at the guess? Just raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, let's go to Madhumita, who was one of the first ones to give us the answer.
Hi, yes. So
Hi,
I guess
once again.
this was Inside Out.
What gave it away?
I feel like I didn't realize it till it went inside and you could see that person's brain and these two characters sitting in it. So I guess that's what like gave me the hint.
Absolutely right. This is one of the inspirations for the movie Inside Out. Is there anyone here who hasn't watched Inside Out? Can you just raise your hand? Or you can tell us on chat as well. Let's go to Mehek or Sham. Yes.
I have sadly not watched too many of the good movies because of sheer anxiety of watching something new. But this is something I study psychology. This is something we do bring up a lot. And if somebody else here studies psychology, this is how my teacher taught us schemas and mental health schemas. So I think she was talking about some islands in the movie, and she said, "Oh, those are schemas that they're representing there." So
Personality islands, yes.
Yes. So I know of the movie, but for some reason I skip out on watching it a lot. But I do like what it's done and what I know of it. So appreciate that.
Very interesting. Sham, have you heard of this film before? Okay, any fun facts about the movie Inside Out? Yeah, go ahead, Sham. We can hear you now.
No, we haven't heard about it. We don't watch that many movies.
Okay. You must. It's one of my favorite Pixar films of all time. I mean, the director did do a lot of research on the concepts of emotions and personalities, sort of, for lack of a better word, dumbed it down in an animated film, but does sort of go into areas which you don't expect an animated film to do. Aarti, Megha, any points of view about this film?
Megha, you want to go first?
I mean, I have so many things to say about this movie.
Go
It's
ahead.
definitely one of my favorite movies. But when I first saw the clip side that you showed us, I went straight to Jojo Rabbit because I couldn't get past the Hitler bit. So I was like, oh, okay, that's fascinating. I looked it up, and apparently Reason and Emotion was made in 1943, which is super like fresh out of World War.
Yes.
Very brave of them to have made it.
Yeah.
And interesting that like they're nowhere close to as political or opinionated now as an organization.
Just clarifying that, if I'm not mistaken, I think Disney used to make a lot of propaganda films, so to speak, speaking against the Germans or the Axis powers on the behest of US government, right? So there's an entire sort of range of what are known as propaganda films from both sides. But yeah, you're right about.
I just never realized that somebody like Disney would be the vehicle of a propaganda. You don't think that. You think that it's all insidious child propaganda, but you don't think it's like active World War propaganda.
Yeah.
Clever. Yeah, I love this film also. I think it gets a lot of things right. For instance, there's this notion that there are 6 primary emotions.
Yes.
And I think 5 of them are represented in this movies. I think the one that's missing may be surprise. And then all the other emotions are a combination or subset of those. So I love that. I love the personality islands. So
but it gets you also, I think, in such small ways. So like one of my favorite things about Inside Out is like when they're in the like I don't know what you call it, the tunnels of the brain, and suddenly
Yes.
those two little characters insert a memory into the brain from some ad from decades ago, and suddenly the girl is then humming that theme song, and I'm just like, man, it's such a relatable thing, right? There's suddenly something comes into your head and your brain is singing. I just thought that it got the little things right, which reinforce the larger messages.
Exactly. So the way memories, emotions are related, like we go and smell something and we're immediately brought back to the first time we smelled that, and so on. I also like it from a, those of you who know me, I'm quite a feminist. I work in the diversity space. So it's also one of the few movies that passes what's called the Bechdel test. Again, a lot of you may be familiar with this, where you basically, the Bechdel test is a test of, when there are at least two characters that are women and talking to each other and they're not talking about men. So there are these criteria that you have to pass for it to be passing the test. So this passes it, but there's also criticism, just so you know, that some of the, like the male character of these emotions is the rage character, and then sadness and joy are depicted as the female characters. So, but I'm not going to pick it apart that way. I still think it's a great, yeah. So that was a small Funda.
That's a great fun fact that this movie passes the Bechdel test. Thanks, Aarti, for that. I did not know that. Another fun fact that I realized, very, very shameful of me, but I did not know there was a sequel to this film. So there's an Inside Out 2.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, even I did not know that.
What?
Yeah, so yeah, weekend watching
Inside, outside, in. Nice.
Cool. Let's move on to the next question. The Live, Love, Laugh Foundation is an NGO that deals with mental health issues, right? This organization was founded by a famous Indian celebrity and Indian actress who went public with her own struggles with depression, anxiety. She's also an ambassador for the NGO called Indian Psychiatric Society, which is the largest association of Indian psychiatrists in India, right? So who is this famous Indian actress who's behind Live, Love, Laugh Foundation? In fact, many years ago, there was in fact a large advertising campaign to promote Live, Love, Laugh with billboards across Bombay and Bangalore. I remember many years ago. So many of us are familiar through different channels. A lot of you seem to have gotten it right. Let's go to someone who's raised their hand.
Rashmi's not.
Or someone who's not.
Yeah.
Let me go to Chandni, who has an answer, I think, in a while. If not, we go to Rashmi. Yes. Yes, Chandni, go ahead.
Is that Deepika Padukone? So I'm not too sure, but I think she's synonymous with advocating the importance of mental health, being a celebrity. And I think many of us have got to know about the importance of mental health through her.
That's absolutely right, Chandni. You're right. 10 points to you. This is Deepika Padukone. You're right. I think a lot of us, were made aware of mental health issues for the first time with a mainstream Indian celebrity when Deepika Padukone spoke about it in a couple of interviews, and then she also went on this campaign promoting this foundation. Right. A lot of you joining in on the YouTube live stream as well. Sameer Bhagwat has given us very interesting answers. For the previous question on Inside Out, Sai Milind pointed out an interesting fact about how disgust, who's shown in green, was actually, the green color came in from broccoli, right? As broccoli is sort of undesirable to children. And Vivek has mentioned an interesting fact that Soul was made by the same director, and it was made after he wasn't completely satisfied with Inside Out. And I completely agree with him. A lot of Soul's storytelling seems to be like, leftovers from Inside Out and a lot more deeper thinking on the idea of personalities, where souls come from, and so on.
And less like.
Cool. Any fun facts? Yes, please.
Sorry, just on Soul and Inside Out, I think Soul is less prescriptive about joy and happiness and more like live your life.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Let's move on to the next question. This is an interesting campaign run by Live, Love, Laugh called The A to Z of Depression. You could check it out online. Fairly interesting sort of storytelling using the A to Z format. People who got it right on the YouTube live chat, Vaishnavi, MV, and Anshul Suri. Congratulations to all of you. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, this is a question that actually came in from Aarti, one of my favorite questions of today's quiz. What does it mean to be a friend of Bill or friend of Dr. Bob? So if someone refers to you as a friend of Bill or a friend of Dr. Bob, what does that mean? Or what is that a subtle reference to? You can send in your answers on chat. Aarti, do you want to give any clues?
I think it's not just referring to, it's also a question. So are you a friend of Bill is how someone would pose that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. And I see one person at least got it, or couple. Yes.
Okay, let's go to Madhumita, who's been rocking this quiz. Yeah. Hey, Madhumita, go ahead.
Hi. So I guess this is what someone would like she said, you'd ask, are you a friend of Bill? This would actually mean, are you a member of the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings where people go to kind of help them stop drinking and the abstinence from alcohol?
Yes. Aarti, is that true?
Indeed, it is. And the reason I know this is because I went to graduate school, got my PhD from Akron, which is where Alcoholics Anonymous was founded. So I have volunteered at a couple of these Founders Day meetings where, literally from around the world, members of Alcoholics Anonymous would gather in little town called Akron in Ohio. It was fascinating. And they do this big ritual in a huge hall where they would, go around saying, I've been sober for so long. So it starts with, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, and it goes all the way to years. So the person who's left standing at the end has been, sober for like 50 years or whatever. And they still, one of the tenets of AA is, of course, you announce yourself as an alcoholic because it's something that you have to own and like it never leaves you in a way. So it's really sort of, it gives you goosebumps to witness that. Very fascinating.
Do you think that the representation of Alcoholics Anonymous in pop culture has been better than the
I'm sorry?
Do you think the representation of AA in pop culture has been better than the representation of therapy?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't been in the inside, so I don't know how to answer that. But yeah, at least it's a little more sensitive for sure. And it's more or less consistent.
Yeah, because I know everything I know about AA from TV. And it's all the same.
+1 to 10. Yes.
Yeah, it's all really like consistent, I guess.
I think it's also a testament to their structured ways of operating. So they have a 12-step program and all of this, right? So maybe it's easier to get that right.
Very interesting. I was blown away when this this question was suggested by Aarti. And I think it's largely an American practice of referring to the members as, or this question of, are you a friend
Possibly. Oh yeah, and because these were the founders. I haven't heard it used here, for instance, although I know AA is very active even in India. The church where, I grew up near a church, they used to have AA meetings every week.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I really like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's very good.
The other fun fact here is some of y'all might know a way to ask if someone was gay when it wasn't so well accepted is to say, are you a friend of Dorothy's? Like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. So yeah, that's a sneaky way to say, are you gay?
Very interesting. I think Adish has mentioned an interesting fact that a good sitcom that covers topics related to AA is Mom, starring Anna Faris. Thanks for the recommendation, Adish. Mom has been on my list for a while now. He said it's one of the better Chuck Lorre shows. Good to know. Madhumita is also a big fan of Mom. So clearly, we have a lot of watching to do on pop culture related to mental health. Thank you so much, everyone. These are great recommendations coming. Vedang, I think we'll go to scores after 2 questions. We'll move on to one fairly simple question related to history. Right? This term, which is now used casually in modern day English, but came into the language from World War I, where soldiers suffered from symptoms like amnesia, dizziness, etc., despite not having head wounds. So initially, it was considered to be a result of physical wounds that the soldiers suffered, and they are sort of hazy way of coping with it, either mentally or physically, by being aware of things. All of that was attributed to this one aspect, which is a 2-word term, right? Today we use it in a different or in a slightly broader context. What term is this? Right? Some of you have said PTSD. That is actually not what we're looking for. Think of this like the older version of, or the term that people used to use instead of PTSD during the World War. It's a 2-word term. Okay, let's go to Adish. Adish, who's answered it first.
Yeah, so my guess is that this is shell shock, which I guess comes from the bomb shells that used to be used and explode and basically cause these symptoms.
That's absolutely right. We're talking about the term shell shock, which today is understood to be the older way of referring to PTSD. Though when shell shock was coined, it was largely referring to physical symptoms because of physical injury that took place, which is not exactly what PTSD is. Megha, anything to add on this?
I just think
No?
that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think all three of us loved etymology and word origins, and we had fun time. Even with some of the questions that we haven't asked in today's quiz, like there were great stories behind that as well. And shell shock is one of our favorite etymology stories as well. Cool. Let's move on quickly. We've already done with 50 minutes of today's quiz. We'll sort of breeze through the last 5 questions. Okay. What is SAD, right? So SAD is a specific type of depression. It's a condition where people regularly, on a sort of consistently and regularly face anxiety and depression. It stands for affective disorder. What does the S in SAD stand for? Right. So the visual should also help you. Okay, this seems to have been an easy question for everyone. Let's go to Merin Reggie. Hey, Merin.
Hi. Is it S stands for seasonal affective disorder here?
And why is it seasonal?
Because that's usually when it's very gloomy outside and you feel low yourself. Like,
yes. That's absolutely true. The S in SAD stands for seasonal. It affects, is essentially a seasonal thing that happens every year to certain individuals who feel depressed or lethargic during winters, especially, I mean, due to lack of sunlight or staying indoors or the temperature itself. And while again researching for this quiz, I found out that it's not just winter and the gloomy weather. Some people have seasonal affective disorders for all the seasons. Like there are certain people who have it during spring, some people who have during summer. So as long as it's frequent, it happens every year according to the seasons, it gets classified under SAD. Madhumita says, as a Chennai girl, I second this.
Yeah, super quick add on to what Madhumita said. I went to college in London and there was someone from Chennai who was on my floor. And he actually dropped out of college in London and transferred to Singapore because he couldn't handle the weather.
Oh, wow.
Like, what a clever guy. But he was like, I can't go to UCL anymore. I'm moving to NUS because there's no sunshine in this stupid country, which is accurate. But like, it was really, really sad and very, very difficult. Yeah.
I have a similar story. A friend of mine, I used to work with this chap from Florida who we lived in Portland and worked there for a bit. And same thing, he couldn't handle it. November comes and then he'd hit the tanning salons to get some, like, it's also related to lack of melatonin, So he would try all that, but then in 2 years he left, moved back to Florida. Same reason.
Nice. Very, very interesting. A lot of people on the YouTube chat also got it right. Anisha, Karnel, Vaishnavi, and for the previous question, Prejo Sunny actually cracked both the Alcoholics Anonymous question as well as the shell shocked question, right? And Samir actually mentioned the fact that Aarti mentioned, which is that, friend of Dorothy, also being used to refer to LGBTQI members or individuals rather. And I think there was some interesting person who said, "Why no doctor for Bill?" I think who about the founders rather. Mehak says, "Isn't Finland considered the happiest country or something?" But it's in the frigids. Okay, nice. Rashmi says, "A friend of mine from Chennai could not handle even the Bangalore weather."
That's an
I don't know
insight
what
that
to
I
say
won't
to that.
take. Move
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
All right. Right. So we spoke about Pete Docter, the man who made Inside Out. He also wrote the script for Up. Right. And this cheerful, bubbly girl that you see in the beginning of the film, right, was based on his own daughter. Right. And I think both of them are called Ellie. Right. And the character is also named Ellie after her. She also gave one of the voices for the girl character in the initial part of the film. Now, in real life, however, Pete Docter saw that Ellie's childhood joy took a vacation, right, at the age of 11. So, which other Pixar film is based on this observation of Pete Docter about his daughter, that when she turned 11, she changed a lot from what she was earlier, right? So, her earlier character sort of inspired the girl in Up, but this change that happened in the age of 11 inspired another Pixar film. So which Pixar film are we talking about? Take a guess. You can just name any Pixar film that you like. Okay, we're going to give 10 seconds more and then go to someone who's raised their hands or someone who's not spoken so far. Okay, let's go to Merin.
Yeah, this is highly
Yeah.
unlikely that an answer would repeat, but is it Inside Out again?
Why would be highly unlikely?
Like same answers in a quiz.
Let's find out. It is absolutely right. This is also Inside Out, right? We debated a lot until last night. Megha, me and Aarti were debating whether to frame the question in this way. I thought it's cheeky and it's fun. And like you said, a lot of people wouldn't think it's Inside Out once again. But this is Inside Out, right? So Pete Docter took a lot of inspirations for making Inside Out, but his main inspiration was his own daughter, right? And the fact that she underwent this change when she turned 11, and you see those personality islands of hers sort of crumbling down, right? And those are things that were inspired by his real life daughter. And I found this interesting dichotomy that, the character in Up and the character in Inside Out, both the girls are based on the same person. Yeah, one more Inside Out question.
I think this is a
any more
quizzing
fun
lesson.
Yes.
This is a quizzing lesson, right? That like when we had the dry run, I was like, we can't do this. The answer has to be Up. The answer cannot be Inside Out. But I think that it's such a lesson of like, whenever you start quizzing, you have to just trust your instincts, because otherwise you'll have that, oh, see, I knew it, I should have said it, I knew it, I should have said it. Yeah, this is that.
Thanks, Megha. We're glad to have converted you into a quiz as well. Always trust your instinct is what Megha says, and that's absolutely right. I think it happens to so many of us where we think of the answer, but we think it may not be, smart enough or relevant enough, and we scrap it. But yeah. Merin asks, Up as a bubbly girl. Is it the wife? Yes, we're talking about the wife. The initial parts of the movie where you see the love story between the boy and the girl. That's the same girl we're talking about. Any fun facts about Up?
I think it's just those 4-5 minutes where they show the whole story unfold is like the best 5 minutes of any movie that I've watched.
True.
No words, just amazing, like all the emotions. That scene gets you every time, you're right. Yay. No, I just love
It's
it.
absolutely true.
Mehak, we're so glad this is your first quiz. Thank you for coming.
Good to know, Mehak. Do attend some of other quizzes as well. Again, the environment or the vibe is fairly similar. We encourage wrong answers, and like Megha said, always trust your instinct and go with what you think is the right answer. Let's move on to the next question quickly. Right. So this American mother-daughter pair created something that's grown in popularity over the years for creating a slightly now controversial test of personality types, right? So all you have to do is just tell me what their names are, right? So I'm looking for two names. Just going back to the earlier question, Merin mentioned that, she learned from the India Wants to Know quizzes that the carpentry scene in Up could be a euphemism for sex. This is actually true. We did ask a question about how a lot of animators sort of have this symbolism in their scenes when they use carpentry. All right, let's go to someone who's not answered in a while. Madhumita.
Hi. So I think this is the Briggs-Mayer test, where they divide everyone into 16 personalities.
That's true. This is the Briggs-Myers or the Myers-Briggs type indicator. So Aarti and Megha, tell us why it's controversial.
Okay, I'll start. So
Please.
first of all, it was kind of created on the fly. There's a lot of different parts of this origin story. Like one says it was inspired by, I think Briggs was the daughter, her husband, and the mother was like, yeah, the son-in-law is really strange. And another origin story is like how they used to quiz the neighborhood children about and the children's parents about the kids' habits and so on. So it was not really scientific in its development. The second reason it's controversial, and the main reason, is personalities don't fall into types very neatly. So it's not that you're an introvert or an extrovert. Everyone sort of lies on that spectrum somewhere in between. So the more appropriate way to measure personality is what are called trait theories, which allows you to be different along various spectrums of personality. So yeah, if your company is using the MBTI and slots you into anything based on it, please dismiss it quite happily. Come to me, I'll give you lots of reasons why.
Yeah. I think companies started using this way back, right? I think it started in the 50s is when I think General Electric, it was, which started to evaluate its employees based on this. And yeah, I think there are a few companies even still doing it.
Yeah. It's become popular just because it's popular. It's one of those things that's just like, no one really questions it anymore.
It's also a really fun quiz to take on BuzzFeed.
Yeah, it's no better than any BuzzFeed quiz. You're kind of right.
It's the psych version of Hogwarts houses, essentially, at this point.
Pretty much.
What is common to BuzzFeed quizzes, Myers-Briggs, and the Hogwarts sorting? Is that what it is? Okay, let's move on to, this I think is a fact that Aarti mentioned, how she did these tests were fairly questionable. And another interesting fact, though, which I find as a quizzer, is that Isabella Briggs, who's the daughter, was also a fiction writer. She's actually written a couple of murder mystery novels, right? And it was then later she sort of got involved in the tests as well. But that is an interesting fact. All right, this is one of my favorite questions. So this book, right, 2012 Indian novel about a bipolar mother, won multiple awards, right? The Hindu Literary Prize, the Crossword Book Prize, the Sahitya Academy, the Wyndham Campbell Literature Prize, and so on, right? Now, this book is essentially about the author's bipolar mother, right, who's schizophrenic and she smokes endless BDs. Her name is Imelda. right? And the book is named after the nicknames that the son gives to his parents, Imelda and Augustine, right? As it's given there, most of the time, Imelda smokes endless BDs, sings her ways through life. She's the sun around which everyone else orbits. But as enchanting and high-spirited as she can be, Imelda's bipolar disorder seizes her. She becomes monstrous and sometimes with calamitous consequences for herself and others. What is the name of this popular book? Quite a few have gotten it right. Let's go. I think Rashmi's audio is facing an issue, so we'll go to Madhumita.
Hi. So yes, I think it says M and the Big Whom by Jerry Pinto.
Yes. Any other interesting things that you can tell us about this book?
There's actually a sequel to this as well.
Oh, is it?
I don't know if it's a sequel, but he did write a second book based on the same mental health of mom. I don't know if it's the same mom, but yes.
Oh, that's fascinating. I was not aware of this. Right. No, it's not Bigger Whom, but yes, this is, Madhumita is absolutely right. This is M and the Big Whom. For those of you who haven't read it, it's a fascinating book of this Roman Catholic family living in Mumbai. And they have this, the mother who's a fascinating character, and somebody who I know who, has a family member who's facing similar sort of mental issues. They said that it felt like Jerry Pinto sitting in my house and writing this book. It felt very relatable to them as well. And it's a wonderful book with some interesting sort of conversations and characters in this work. Rashmi says he has one edited book. It's called Book of Light. If you can just unmute yourself and give us more details.
Rashmi's audio.
Okay. No worries. This was an interesting passage from the book that we thought we should share, right? Especially the second part. Right? He talks about how he grew up being told that his mother had a nervous problem. Later, it was a nervous breakdown, and then after the diagnosis, she was said to be schizophrenic and treated as one. Right? Finally, everyone settled down to calling her manic depressive. Through it all, she had one word for herself: mad. Mad. Mad is an everyday, ordinary word. It is compact. It fits into songs, as the old Hindi film song had it, M-A-D Mane Pagal. It had become a phrase saying mad or what, which began life as are you mad or what? It can be everything you choose it to be: a mad whirl, a mad idea, a mad March day, a mad heiress, a mad, mad, mad world, a mad passion, a mad hatter, a mad dog. Right? Once again, recommending the book for those of you who haven't read it so far. And it ends with saying, but it's different when you have a mad mother. Then the word wakes up from time to time and blinks at you, eyes of fire, but only sometimes, for we use the word casually for ourselves. Children of a mad mother. There is no automatic gift that arises out of such a circumstance. If sensitivity and gentleness came with such a genetic load, there would be no old people in mental homes. All right. Okay, next question. Very simple one, I think. In what context is Section 309 of the Indian Penal Code in conflict with Section 115 of the Mental Health Care Act? Right? So obviously, we don't expect you to know all the sections of laws, but what part of the Indian Penal Code do you think is in conflict with Section 115? Okay. Does anyone want to take a shot, or you can just raise your hand, we'll come to you. Okay, I'm just going to pick Asmi, who's not spoken so far.
So I think basically the section 309 of the IPC tells that a person who commits suicide will be they will be imprisoned, and the section 115 of the Mental Health Healthcare Act of 2017 tells that they wouldn't be imprisoned or anything, and they will be helped generally, I guess.
That's absolutely right. Ask me, right? Nobody else got it right on chat. This is the conflict between whether suicides in India are legal or illegal. The Section 309 of the IPC states that anybody attempting to take their own life can be imprisoned, whereas the Mental Health Act of 2017 decriminalizes it. Whereas this confusion is still going on. In fact, I remember reading yesterday that the Supreme Court has asked for clarification even up to 2 weeks ago, asking the government to step in and clarify this, because a lot of the police in different parts of the country are still using Section 309 as part of the IPC to imprison anyone who threatens to kill themselves. Aarti, Megha, any information that you have with regard to this conflict? How does it work in reality?
Not well, and the police always win.
I'm sorry?
I just said not well, and the police always win. I think it is poorly executed.
Right.
Yeah, I think obviously the criminalization of this it sounds ridiculous to yeah. And I think the other interesting aside or tangent here is the term commit suicide is also sort of over time you might have noticed in the media they've been trying to change that to saying kill oneself or died by suicide, or better ways to say that, because it's not really committing a crime to to go along with this controversy or this debate.
True. I found a very strange, it's one of those bizarre things that happens in India that you can't believe is true. So this Supreme Court hearing that happened a few weeks ago, asking the government to intervene and clarify this, came in because of an animal activist who's filed a PIL because of a rise in number of people throwing themselves in animal enclosures in zoos. Right, and he wanted to stop. Yeah, so I didn't know this has become a thing where people are actually throwing themselves into animal enclosures.
Wow.
Yeah, to commit suicide, and he wanted the police to intervene, but they could not because it's now not technically illegal. So it's a fairly absurd sort of a way why Supreme Court is now asking for this clarification to be, cleared once and for all.
Oh, and since that image also brought up one more thing. Until a couple of years ago, or even less than that, we didn't have a national helpline for suicide. So someone actually, someone I've known slightly started this petition on change.org, and it went, gathered lots of momentum, and they actually announced a national helpline.
Yes.
So yeah.
So now we have multiple, I think there are multiple helplines.
There are lots of, like just organizations that have helplines, but in terms of just a national, like, dial 100 for police, that sort of an idea didn't exist.
Got it. Awesome. Vedang, if we are almost at the last question of today's quiz, could you just tell us the scores before we head into the last question?
Okay, yeah. So it's fairly competitive, I would say. So for the first place, it's a tie between Merin and Madhumita. Both are at 70.
Ooh.
Nice.
And the second place, it's Mehek with 50. And
on
the
your
third
first
place,
quiz, Mehek, not bad.
Very nice.
And Adesh with 40 points.
Great. So it's a close fight till the last question. And we're going to make it fun here. So it's about not just getting it right, but it's about who gets it fastest as well. Right. So send in your answers, or whoever answer comes in first to all the panelists gets the winner, or gets the prize rather, right? Between it's Madhumita and Merin, right? Yes. All the best to both of you and everyone else. Here's the last question of today's quiz. This is a common illness worldwide, and it is estimated that 5% of adults suffer from it. It's a leading cause of disability worldwide and is a major contributor to an overall global burden of disease. It results from a complex interaction of social, psychological, and biological factors. What are we talking about? Right, so whoever sends in the answer first, Adesh has gotten in and gotten 10 points. Merin has sent in an answer that's not correct. And will Madhumita get it right and win the quiz on the last question? No, she also gets it wrong. And yeah, others can also send in answers. It's not just a quiz for 3 of them. Okay, so the answers so far that I've got that are incorrect are ADHD from Merin, anxiety, migraine, OCD, anxiety. But let's go to Adesh, who was the only person to get it right, along with Sham as well. Sham, if you can also speak, you can tell us the answer. Yes, please.
Yeah, my guess was that it's depression, clinical depression.
That's absolutely right. This is depression. Once again, we had a googly in the quiz, just to sort of throw you off and question your instinct, so to speak. With that, we now have a three-way tie, right? Veda, we have Madhumita, Merin, and Adish at 50 now?
No. Merin and Madhumita at 70.
70, sorry. Right. So Adi still moves closer. He's clearly in second place. But winning the quiz are Merin and Madhumita. Congratulations to both of you. Madhumita says, haha, happy to share with Merin unless you have a tiebreaker. Merin, are you a really competitive quizzer?
Now, for the sake of everyone's mental health, we stop it here.
Perfect. That's the note that we wanted to end with. Congratulations to all of you, especially Merin, Madhumita, Adish. Hope you enjoyed the quiz, and those of you who joined in even on the YouTube live stream. Congratulations for all the great answers. Megha, I'm sorry, I think we forgot to pause in the middle.
That's totally
to introduce
fine.
everyone.
We're over time already, so
please.
just drop the link in the chat.
Sure. No, you can actually take some time now as well if you wish.
Okay, I know, but we're 15 minutes over time.
Yes,
but I just wanted to say thanks
That's fine.
everyone for coming today. Really appreciate you participating in this good quiz and really, really good job. Like surprisingly great quiz instincts in this room. I did not do this well on the dry run. So at OFC, what we're currently doing is, as a response to the pandemic, supporting mental health services for people who can't afford them. So we have supported 812 people so far, both through one-on-one therapy and our community spaces and sharing circles. And you're going to help us do a little more of that for a couple of months. So we really appreciate your support today. I've dropped the link in the chat for you to learn more about the project.
Thank you so much, Megha. And thanks to everyone who participated in today's quiz. Do send in your feedback at hello@indiawantsknowquiz.com. And Aarti and Megha, thank you so much for letting us do this. When you approached us with this topic many months ago, we were really kicked about it and we wondered how this would go. But honestly, it's been great even setting this quiz. A lot of us, like me, Sonal, Vedang, Aman, have all learned a lot setting this quiz as well. We hope to do this once again, like I said earlier, hopefully soon in a month or so. Any feedback, Aarti, Megha?
No, thank you so much. You all have been amazing. I've been really honored to be on this side after having been a participant in so many of your quizzes before. So it's been a lot of fun and really, really grateful for your support. Yes, and we'll do this again.
Thank you, everyone. Our next quiz is the Clubhouse quizzes that we're doing with Kumar Varun. So this evening, 4 p.m. is the cricket quiz. So this is a weekly quiz that we're doing in association with Clubhouse and Kumar Varun. The prelims of that quiz is happening every week on Saturdays. So today's is the cricket session happening at 4 p.m. on Zoom. You can get your tickets on Insider. They're free of cost. And we have a couple of quizzes coming up in November. Do check out our social media, where we'll also share links and more information about OFC as well. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this quiz. Have a great weekend. Stay sane, stay safe. Take care. Bye.
Bye, all. Take care. Bye.